Mothman. The Mothman is a modern American cryptid first reported in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, between November 1966 and December 1967, where over 100 witnesses described encountering something truly bizarre. The creature was consistently described as a humanoid figure standing 6 to 7 feet tall with massive wings spanning approximately 10 feet and glowing red eyes that seemed to be set directly into its shoulders or chest area, with no visible head. Witnesses included police officers, construction workers, and multiple independent groups who reported the creature could fly at extreme speeds, with some claiming it kept pace with their cars traveling over 100 miles per hour. The sightings ended abruptly after the Silver Bridge collapse on December 15, 1967, which killed 46 people, leading some to associate Mothman with disaster prophecy, though this connection was never substantiated. The most rational explanations suggest witnesses misidentified a sandhill crane, which can stand over 4 feet tall and has a wingspan exceeding 6 feet, or possibly a barn owl seen under poor lighting conditions. The creature's glowing red eyes could be explained by the tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer in many animals' eyes that causes eye shine when light hits them at night. What makes Mothman particularly interesting as a potential real cryptid is the sheer number of independent witnesses who reported strikingly similar descriptions before the phenomenon became widely publicized, suggesting they weren't simply copying each other's stories or influenced by media coverage. Chupacabra. The chupacabra, meaning goat sucker in Spanish, first appeared in Puerto Rico in March 1995, when 8 sheep were found dead in canovanas, completely drained of blood through small puncture wounds. The legend spread rapidly throughout Latin America and into the southwestern United States, with 2 very different descriptions emerging from witnesses. The original Puerto Rican accounts described a reptilian humanoid standing 3 to 4 feet tall with gray-green skin, large eyes, and distinctive spines or quills running down its back, while later sightings, particularly in Texas and Mexico, described something more dog-like, hairless with pronounced spine ridges and an elongated snout. Between 2007 and 2014, several supposed chupacabra carcasses were captured and subjected to DNA testing, and every single specimen was identified as a coyote, dog, or fox suffering from severe sarcoptic mange. Sarcoptic mange is a parasitic skin disease caused by mites that burrow into the skin, causing intense itching, hair loss, thickened leathery skin, and dramatic weight loss, transforming familiar animals into something that looks genuinely alien and monstrous. The disease also changes behavior, as infected animals become weak, desperate, and more willing to attack livestock they'd normally avoid, perfectly explaining the aggressive attacks on farm animals. The blood-draining claims appear to be folklore embellishment, as examination of killed livestock shows typical canid predation patterns rather than any mysterious exsanguination. The chupacabra represents a fascinating case where disease created a cryptid from a known animal, demonstrating how mange can make a common coyote appear otherworldly enough to spawn an entire legend. Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is one of America's oldest cryptids, with a legend dating back to 1735 in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, where it's been continuously reported for nearly 3 centuries. According to origin folklore, it was the cursed 13th child of Mother Leeds, supposedly born normal but transforming into a monster before flying up the chimney, though this is clearly mythological rather than factual. The creature is consistently described as a bizarre chimera with a horse or goat-like head, massive bat wings, a forked tail, cloven hooves, and standing approximately 3 to 4 feet tall when upright, capable of both bipedal movement and flight, despite its seemingly impossible anatomy. The most significant wave of sightings occurred during what's called the Phenomenal Week, January 16th to 23rd, 1909, when over 1,000 people across New Jersey and Pennsylvania reported encounters, with mysterious tracks appearing in snow throughout the region. Witnesses during this period included postmasters, police officers, firefighters, and business owners, not just rural farmers, lending some credibility to the widespread panic. The 1909 tracks were examined by hundreds of people, showing unusual prints that didn't match known animals, though skeptics argue these may have been elaborate hoaxes that spiraled into mass hysteria. The most plausible explanations suggest the original sightings involved misidentified large birds such as sandhill cranes or possibly an escaped hammerhead bat, a large African species with a bizarre horse-like head that could have been kept as an exotic pet. Sightings continue sporadically to the present day, with reports as recent as 2015 and 2016 demonstrating the legend's persistence in local culture and the human tendency to interpret unusual wildlife encounters through the lens of established folklore. Mongolian deathworm. The Mongolian deathworm, known locally as Olgoi korkoi, meaning intestine worm, is a cryptid reported by nomadic herders in the Gobi Desert for centuries, described as a thick-bodied creature resembling a cow's intestine. Witnesses consistently describe it as 2 to 5 feet long with dark red or blood red coloring, living underground in the sandy desert and surfacing primarily during or after the brief rainy season in June and July. The creature reportedly has no visible eyes, mouth, or other distinguishing features, appearing as a smooth, tube-like body that moves through peristaltic muscle contractions like an earthworm. Local legends claim it can spit corrosive yellow venom or emit an electric shock strong enough to kill a person or animal, though these claims are scientifically implausible for any known worm physiology. Czech explorer Ivan Mackerel led 3 separate expeditions to the Gobi in the 1990s and 2000 specifically searching for the deathworm, but found no physical evidence despite extensive searching and interviewing local herders. What makes this cryptid intriguing is the consistency of descriptions across isolated nomadic communities who had limited contact with each other, suggesting they're describing something real rather than sharing folklore. The most plausible explanations include misidentified legless lizards, which do exist in the region, or possibly a species of large amphisbaenian, commonly called worm lizards, which are burrowing reptiles that superficially resemble earthworms but can grow much larger. The Gobi Desert remains poorly explored scientifically, and new reptile species are discovered regularly in Central Asia, making it theoretically possible an unusual burrowing creature exists, unrecognized by science. However, the claimed abilities of venom spitting and the electric shocks have no basis in known worm or amphisbaenian biology, suggesting these are legendary embellishments added to sightings of real but mundane desert creatures. Moklembembe. Moklembembe, meaning one who stops the flow of rivers in the Lingala language, is a cryptid reported from the Congo River Basin in Central Africa, described by local tribes as a sauropod-like creature surviving in remote swamplands. The creature is reportedly 15 to 30 feet long, including its tail, with a long neck, small head, massive gray-brown body, and elephant-like skin texture, spending most of its time in water and emerging occasionally onto land. Reports are concentrated in the Lake Tele region and Likwala swamps of the Republic of Congo, where German explorer Karl Hagenbeck first investigated accounts in the early 1900s after hearing consistent descriptions from multiple indigenous sources. Cryptozoologist Roy McCall conducted several expeditions between 1980 and 1988, and when local pygmy tribes were shown pictures of various animals, they consistently selected illustrations of sauropod dinosaurs as matching what they'd seen. The idea of a surviving dinosaur captures the imagination, but it's highly implausible from a biological standpoint because there's no food chain capable of supporting a creature that size in those swamps. And atmospheric oxygen levels are insufficient for sauropod respiration. The most likely explanations involve misidentified known animals such as forest elephants crossing rivers with only their backs visible, large Nile crocodiles, or even hippopotamuses in areas where they're rarely seen. The Congo Basin remains genuinely underexplored, and new species of smaller animals are discovered regularly, but a megafauna species like a sauropod would require a breeding population and leave substantial evidence. The persistence of these reports may represent cultural memory, possibly ancestral encounters with actual large animals now extinct from the region, passed down through generations and reinterpreted through each telling. Despite numerous expeditions, no photographs, tissue samples, bones, or any physical evidence beyond eyewitness testimony has ever been produced, and the environmental conditions simply don't support sauropod survival. Yeti. The Yeti, also known as the abominable snowman, is the most famous Himalayan cryptid, described as a large bipedal ape-like creature inhabiting the high mountains of Nepal, Tibet, and Bhutan. Witnesses describe it as standing 6 to 10 feet tall, covered in white, gray, or reddish-brown hair, powerfully built with an estimated weight of 200 to 400 pounds, shy and primarily nocturnal, leaving large humanoid footprints in snow, measuring 12 to 20 inches long. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reported finding large mysterious footprints during their famous 1953 Mount Everest expedition, bringing international attention to the legend that had existed in Sherpa culture for centuries. Famous mountaineer Reinhold Messner claimed a 1986 encounter with a Yeti, but later concluded after extensive research that he'd seen a Tibetan blue bear, a rare subspecies that can walk bipedally. So-called Yeti scalps preserved in Buddhist monasteries were scientifically tested and identified as hide from Himalayan seros, a goat antelope species native to the region. In 2017, a comprehensive DNA study led by geneticist Charlotte Lindqvist analyzed 9 samples purported to be from Yetis, and 8 were definitively identified as coming from bears: Himalayan brown bears, Tibetan blue bears, and Asian black bears, with one sample matching an unknown bear species or possible hybrid. This genetic evidence essentially closed the scientific case, strongly suggesting that Yeti sightings are misidentifications of rare Himalayan bear species, particularly when seen standing on their hind legs in snow, which creates convincingly humanoid tracks. The extreme altitude, thin air causing oxygen deprivation, harsh weather conditions, and isolation all contribute to misidentification and possibly hallucinations. Despite the DNA evidence, the Yeti remains culturally important in Sherpa and Tibetan traditions, and the Bhutanese government officially designates protected Yeti habitat, demonstrating the creature's significance regardless of its physical existence. Thylacine. The thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger, is the only cryptid on this list that definitely existed historically, making its potential survival the most plausible of all cryptid claims. This marsupial carnivore was native to Tasmania, Australia, with a distinctive appearance featuring 13 to 21 dark brown stripes across its back and rump, a dog-like face and body structure despite being a pouched mammal, measuring about 4 feet long and 2 feet tall at the shoulder, weighing 50 to 65 pounds. The last confirmed wild thylacine was killed in 1930, and the last captive specimen, a male named Benjamin, died at Hobart Zoo on September 7, 1936. After which the species was declared extinct. However, over 4,000 reported sightings have been documented since 1936, primarily in Tasmania but also on mainland Australia, keeping hope alive that a small population survived in remote wilderness areas. The Australian government conducted a systematic search between 1982 and 1986, but found no evidence, and the most recent credible footage claim from 2016 was analyzed and deemed to likely show a Tasmanian patamelon, a smaller marsupial. The Tasmanian government still maintains a formal process for investigating thylacine sighting reports, treating them seriously despite decades without confirmation. Most reported sightings are likely misidentifications of Tasmanian patamelons, spotted-tailed quolls, or feral dogs seen in poor lighting conditions, as these animals can superficially resemble thylacines to untrained observers. The thylacine's extinction was directly caused by human activity, as the Tasmanian government paid a bounty of £1 per carcass, incentivizing hunting that decimated the population within decades. If any thylacines survived, they would need to exist as a breeding population in Tasmania's remote southwestern wilderness, an area that remains relatively unexplored and could theoretically support a small number of shy nocturnal carnivores avoiding human contact. Orang pendek. Orang pendek is a cryptid reported from the highland forests of Sumatra, Indonesia, described as a small bipedal ape standing only 2.5 to 5 feet tall, making it significantly smaller than other famous primate cryptids like Bigfoot or Yeti. The creature is consistently described as covered in short, gray, brown, or reddish hair, walking upright on short but powerful legs, with a human-like face featuring a pronounced brow ridge, and reportedly intelligent enough to use basic tools. Sightings are concentrated in Kerinci Seblat National Park in central Sumatra, where British journalist Debbie Martyr spent much of the 1990s and 2000s investigating reports and ultimately concluded a real undiscovered species likely exists. Footprint casts have been collected measuring 5 to 7 inches long, showing a humanoid shape but distinctly not human, with a divergent big toe characteristic of apes rather than humans. Hair samples have been collected and subjected to DNA testing, but results have been inconclusive due to sample degradation and possible contamination, neither proving nor disproving the creature's existence. Camera trap efforts conducted between 2009 and 2011 failed to capture definitive photographic evidence despite intensive monitoring of areas with frequent reported sightings. What makes orang pendek particularly credible is that local Sumatran people clearly distinguish it from known animals in the region, including orangutans, gibbons, and sun bears, suggesting they're describing something genuinely different. If orang pendek exists, the most plausible explanations include an unknown subspecies of orangutan that's adapted to ground dwelling, an undiscovered gibbon species, or possibly even a surviving population related to Homo floresiensis, the small human species discovered on nearby Flores Island. Sumatra's forests remain poorly explored scientifically, and new species are discovered regularly, making the existence of an unknown primate species more plausible than in well-studied regions. Primatologists consider orang pendek the most credible unknown ape claim because of the consistent descriptions, physical evidence like footprints, and the remote habitat that could realistically hide a small population. Giant squid. The giant squid represents the ultimate proof that cryptids can be real, as it transitioned from legendary sea monster to scientifically confirmed species within the past century. This deep ocean creature reaches 40 to 43 feet long for females, with males smaller at 33 feet, possessing 8 arms plus 2 longer feeding tentacles, eyes up to 10 inches in diameter, making them the largest in the animal kingdom, and a powerful beak capable of cutting through steel cable. Legends of the Kraken in Norse mythology were almost certainly based on giant squid sightings and encounters, as ancient mariners described massive tentacled creatures attacking ships, which seemed like pure fantasy until proven real. The first confirmed specimen was captured in 1873 when Newfoundland fishermen brought in a 20-foot specimen, but the scientific community remained largely skeptical about the creature's size and behavior for decades afterward. Giant squid remained one of the most mysterious animals on Earth until 2004, when Japanese researcher Tsunemi Kubodera captured the first photographs of a live giant squid in its natural habitat at a depth of approximately 2,000 feet. The first video footage of a live giant squid wasn't obtained until 2012, when Kubodera's team filmed a 10-foot specimen in deep waters off Japan, finally providing irrefutable proof of the creature's existence and behavior. The scientific name Architeuthis dux is now fully accepted, with specimens occasionally washing ashore and being found in the stomachs of sperm whales, which are their primary natural predators. Giant squid live at depths of 1,000 to 3,000 feet or deeper, in an environment that remains less explored than the surface of the moon, explaining why they avoided detection for so long despite their enormous size. This case demonstrates that ocean depths can hide megafauna, that legends often contain kernels of truth, and that dismissing cryptid claims entirely may be premature, particularly for creatures inhabiting extreme or poorly explored environments. Coelacanth. The coelacanth is perhaps the most extraordinary example of a cryptid becoming real, as this large lobe-finned fish was known only from fossils dated 66 million years ago, and was thought to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs until a living specimen was discovered in 1938. On December 22, 1938, Marjorie Courtenay Latimer, curator of a small museum in South Africa, found a strange blue fish among a local fishing haul and contacted Professor J.L.B. Smith, who upon seeing sketches immediately recognized it as a coelacanth, and called it the most important natural history find of the century. The fish measures up to 6.5 feet long and weighs up to 200 pounds, with distinctive lobed fins that move alternately like a four-legged animal walking, dark blue coloring with white flecks, and it lives at depths between 300 and 1,000 feet or deeper. A second living population was discovered in 1998 near Indonesia, over 6,200 miles from the African population, revealing these ancient fish had survived undetected in 2 completely separate ocean regions. Coelacanths are extremely slow-growing and can live over 100 years, with fewer than 500 individuals estimated to exist, making them critically endangered despite being rediscovered. The coelacanth represents the ultimate living fossil, as its body structure has remained essentially unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, and it was once thought to be a transitional species, showing how fish evolved to walk on land. This discovery proves conclusively that species believed extinct for tens of millions of years can survive undetected in deep ocean environments, that the fossil record is incomplete and can mislead scientists about extinction timelines, and that ocean depths possess remarkable capacity to hide even large animals from human observation. The coelacanth case strengthens arguments for other living fossil cryptids and demonstrates why dismissing cryptid claims in unexplored ocean regions may be premature, as this fish survived 66 million years without being seen by science until relatively recently. Okapi. The okapi is a striking example of a large land mammal that was considered a cryptid by Western science despite being well known to indigenous Central African peoples for centuries before its official discovery in 1901. This remarkable animal resembles a hybrid between a zebra and a giraffe, standing 5 feet tall at the shoulder, measuring 6 to 8 feet long, and weighing between 450 and 770 pounds, with a dark purplish-brown or reddish body and striking white horizontal stripes on its legs and hindquarters. Indigenous Mbuti people of the Congo knew the animal for generations and called it oapi, but Western explorers dismissed their accounts as folklore until Henry Morton Stanley reported a donkey-like striped animal during his Congo expeditions in 1890. Sir Harry Johnston, a British explorer, confirmed the okapi's existence in 1901 by obtaining skin samples and a skull, leading to the scientific name Okapia johnstoni being assigned in his honor. The okapi possesses a long prehensile tongue, measuring 14 to 18 inches, similar to its closest living relative, the giraffe, which it uses to strip leaves from branches and even clean its own eyes and ears. Despite being scientifically documented since 1901 and being a large distinctive mammal, the okapi remained so elusive that it wasn't photographed in the wild until 2008, over a century after its official discovery. The okapi is solitary and extremely shy, living in dense rainforest habitat in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which explains how it remained hidden from Western science for so long despite its size. This case demonstrates several critical points. Large land mammals can remain unknown to science if they inhabit dense forests and are naturally elusive. Indigenous and local knowledge about supposed mythical creatures is often accurate and should be taken seriously by scientists, and even distinctive sizable animals can function as cryptids until formal scientific confirmation occurs. The okapi's discovery validates the possibility that other large unknown animals might exist in poorly explored tropical forests, particularly in regions like Central Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Amazon, where vast wilderness areas remain scientifically unstudied. Bigfoot. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is North America's most famous cryptid, described as a large bipedal ape-like creature standing 6 to 10 feet tall, covered in dark brown, reddish, or black hair, with an estimated weight of 500 to 900 pounds, leaving enormous humanoid footprints measuring 15 to 24 inches long and 7 to 10 inches wide. Indigenous tribes of the Pacific Northwest have Sasquatch traditions spanning centuries, describing a large wild man of the woods that lived in remote forests and avoided human contact, suggesting the legend predates modern hoaxing. The most famous piece of evidence is the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, 16mm footage shot at Bluff Creek, California, showing what appears to be a large female ape-like creature walking upright, which has never been definitively proven fake or real despite decades of analysis. Over 10,000 sightings have been reported across North America, with the highest concentration in the Pacific Northwest, and witnesses frequently report a strong musky or rotten odor associated with encounters. Large footprint casts have been collected that show anatomically correct features difficult to hoax, including dermal ridges similar to fingerprints and a mid-tarsal break, a flexible midfoot feature found in apes but not humans. However, hair samples collected and tested have consistently been identified as belonging to known animals like bears, or determined to be synthetic fibers from costumes. No bodies, bones, clear photographs, or conclusive DNA evidence has ever been produced, despite thousands of reported sightings and decades of searching by dedicated researchers. The most plausible explanation for the majority of sightings involves misidentified black bears or grizzly bears standing upright on their hind legs, which can appear remarkably humanoid, especially in poor lighting or at distance. A breeding population of 500 or more individuals would be required for long-term survival, and hiding that many large primates in North American forests seems implausible given modern surveillance, trail cameras, and human activity. Primatologist Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum argues that some footprint evidence shows features too anatomically sophisticated to be hoaxes, and believes the phenomenon warrants serious scientific investigation, representing a minority scientific view. Most scientists remain highly skeptical, adhering to the principle that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, which Bigfoot proponents have not provided despite extensive searching. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.